A common problem at the recreational level is the high backhand volley. And here's what happens with many recreational players when they attempt to hit a high backhand volley. They will indeed use the wrist and they will try to snap down on the ball in this way. Now, interestingly, if the ball ends up being a little bit higher, you indeed hit a backhand overhead. What you would do in this instance is get the elbow up towards the sky, and then at the moment of contact, you will need to use the wrist on this particular shot. However, it's very important for you to understand that when we're talking about a high backhand volley, a shot that is hit at a much lower level, so an overhead, it's in the name, is hit well over your head. However, when we're talking about a high volley, whether it be the backhand or the forehand, is hit at a lower point. So you cannot hit an overhead, you have to indeed hit a high volley. And what happens with a lot of players is when they hit a high backhand volley, they end up using the wrist like this to get the ball down. It's a very unstable shot that results in a lot of mistakes. And here's what you have to do instead. When you attempt to hit a high backhand volley that is struck maybe slightly above your head, all the way down to your shoulder level, you can categorize this as a high backhand volley, is that you don't want to use the wrist. You want to allow the racket head to be stable. And what you want to do is hit high to low. That is very much how you should attempt to hit a high backhand volley, but you want to avoid the temptation to snap down on the ball with your wrist. Not only can this cause injuries in the wrist, it's a very dangerous movement, but also because you're changing the angle of the racket face so rapidly and you're not hitting the ball as high as you would hit it on a backhand overhead, the danger of missing the ball into the net is very high. So what you should be doing instead is going high to low with your racket by keeping the wrist in a stable position. Just like any other volley, you want to hold the racket a little bit tighter and just execute a high to low movement on the volley. Now, depending on how close you are to the net, this can be a straight down movement where you close the racket face onto the ball. This can work. You see the Bryan brothers, for example, hit backhand volleys like that when they're close to the net. However, the further away from the net you are, the less likely it is that the ball will go over the net when you hit straight down on it in this way. This will depend on your body height and many other factors, but generally speaking, the further away from the net you are, you don't want to close down on the ball, but you want to keep the angle of the racket face where it's parallel to the net. And then from here, you want to execute a high to low movement looking something like this. And when you execute your high backhand volley in this way, this is going to give you the most stability. It's going to give you the highest probability of the ball going over the net, while at the same time getting more of a downward trajectory, which is very necessary when we're striking high volleys in general. So the one common mistake that I see at the rec level is when players snap the wrist on high backhand volleys, especially for players that have a weak forearm and a weak wrist. This results in an extremely unstable racket head at the moment of contact, which can cause frame shots or wild mistakes in general. So the solution is a stable racket head, and you get that by keeping the wrist firm and in place through the entirety of the high backhand volley. The swing path is going to depend on your proximity to the net. So you can either hit straight down on the ball like this if you're close to the net. And remember that the further back you are, the less chances you have to hit the ball straight down. You want to keep the racket head parallel to the net and execute a high to low swing path.